I think the radio business is in a world of hurt right now. The top 3 companies in the second quarter this year did not make any profit, collectively or individually. The listener can see this change in the number of format changes there are in the radio business, the number of sameness of formats. There's a lot of top 40 or top 40 sounding formats on, and a lot of sports talk formats on, and these are reflective of the ratings methodology and also the budget cuts at radio stations. I also did not like the way my intellectual property was handled in the radio business. My podcasts and what have you were treated in a kind of cavalier manner. And so I wanted to control my intellectual property, and I also wanted to do something that was cutting edge and fun. Radio, because of its budgetary concerns, has never been technologically ahead of the game. They've made many bad decisions about technology over the years. In the 80s, the attempt to promote something called AM stereo, big failure. And now they have something called HD radio, which has been a non-starter for most customers of the radio business. Well, nobody jumps ship to online radio. They are pushed. That's, it's a lot easier to just come in every day and clock in and talk into the microphone and then clock out. Being here, you have to be willing to sign on as an entrepreneur. I'm involved in every aspect of this. When I went to the radio station, I'd show up at 2:58 and the mic would go on at 3 and I'd start talking. And then at 7:01, I would leave. That was it. Here, I have to worry. We just had a new door put in the back here, and I had to make sure that the alarm company came. I have to do all the grunge work that people at the radio station would normally do. Though the fact is, though, that I have pride of ownership here. I'm thrilled to get involved in these little details and to have the little details to worry about. I'm especially thrilled when I see the final product, and all this hard work turns into this show that we come out with every day. People have no idea what went into getting the first show on the stream, how much was going wrong, and how I had to crack the whip over people just to get them to do their jobs on time. And people didn't understand that we were a lot closer to D-Day than they imagined. But Gary and I have been through the war. We know how much work it takes to get a show up and running. When I went to work at Westwood One in 1994, we had to get my syndicated show up to 22 stations. I had 6 weeks, and we were working in a studio that had no phone system, no delay. Over the years, the studio had not been used for a long time, and there were like just big holes where equipment should go. And so we had 6 weeks to come up with a phone number. You wouldn't believe how much time it takes to come up with 1-800-5800-TOM like we used to have. Oh, or like now we have 901-3000-TOM, a number with a cadence that people can remember. Stupid things like that actually take a lot of work. So to have all these details, people listen to radio and it just kind of comes out of the radio. And by the way, the listener shouldn't worry about that stuff. It's not their problem. They should turn it on and get a show. But the reality is there's a lot of things you have to do to make that happen. And around here, you should have seen the surprised look when I walked into the Burbank Water and Power and gave the deposit to turn on the electricity in this building. They're like, why was I there? Well, what are you doing here? And I was there because it's my company, and I had to sign the paperwork. At CBS, when I worked at KLSX, I couldn't tell you who turned on the electricity there and who was responsible for it. I wouldn't have any idea. So literally everything from putting these flat screens in here to the software we use to get the content out to switching over from GoDaddy to Triton Digital for our streaming and for our metrics. These are decisions. I don't leave that to other people. There's no general manager here. I'm the owner, and I have to make these decisions every day. Every day. Well, as always, I don't do that in the studio. I do that at home. I work on this stuff at home. I'm online all morning, and people know because they see me posting all morning. So I'm there from early every morning, and I'm looking at what people are talking about online. because that's the best way to know what the audience is excited about. I throw stuff out there and I see what catches and what doesn't. And when I throw something up there that seems to get a response, that becomes the 3 o'clock tumble. But I may throw several things out there, and some of them may be mediocre, some of them may get a good response, some people get an unbelievable response, and I go, that's what we go with for starters. Also, there are certain predetermined features on the show, like we did Money Monday today. That's every Monday, so there's no such thing as having. By the way, when I do a monologue, there are no notes. I don't read from a teleprompter or cue cards or index cards. That is live and totally spontaneous. And I've always worked that way and always will. So, it's not like I have to sit home and type up my monologue and then come in and read it. It doesn't work that way. I never, ever read from notes. You correctly named them. We have commercials that run in the show. We have the Amazon revenue, which is substantial, surprisingly enough, because I had no idea what to expect from that. And the podcasting, that's well into the 6 figures for a year. Most podcasts don't see 6 figures in 5 years. And so I'm thrilled that that triumvirate of revenue streams is going to work for us. Ultimately, there'll be more coming from ad agencies and media buyers now that we have accredited metrics from Triton Digital. They're accredited, just the way Arbitron is accredited in radio. So we don't have to beg for scraps. We can walk in proudly with these numbers and show them to the media buyers and the ad agencies, and I know we're going to have a lot of cooperation. I've been in this business my whole life. I know a lot of the people at the ad agencies, a lot of the media buyers, and there was no way I was going to do what a lot of internet content creators do when they go hat in hand and they go, oh, don't worry. We got lots of emails from people. A lot of people post on our Facebook page. No, that wasn't enough. I needed to have accredited numbers that showed that people were listening to the product and who they are, and we know what cities they're from, what countries they're from, what browsers they use, if they use a media player, which media player they use. We know everything about them. And we don't use estimates, we use actual numbers. So, based on my own experience with the ad agency media buyers and the people who make these things happen, I don't think we're going to have much of a problem based on the numbers we've seen. In my opinion, if you want to succeed at producing content for the internet, you first have to make sure that you've done all your homework and you know how to make it sound great. It should not be an ordeal or an effort to hear your content. And then many times, internet content, there's buffering, there's sound problems, people who don't sit close enough to the laptop or the snowball microphone, they sound like they're in the other room. You really have to look at that stuff because the listener cares about that. They may not know how to voice it to you in a tweet, but they know. And secondly, you have to have a devotion to providing fresh content, whether it's on a weekly basis or a daily basis. People have to know what time your content is coming down the pipe, and then it has to go down on time every day. The reason radio survived for 90 years was because you knew every day there was going to be a new episode of Rick Dees, a new episode of Howard Stern. You knew when it came on. You knew how long it was going to be. If you want to make a business out of it, if you want to make a career out of it, you have to deliver fresh content on a reliable schedule and not give those dipshit excuses that you didn't have time to do your fucking podcast. That pisses me off no end when people say that. And I think it pisses off your audience. If you built an audience, guess what? They download your podcast, they're your fans, they expect. If it's Monday morning at 5 a.m. that your podcast is supposed to be released, guess what? There's 500 or 1,000 people expecting that to happen. And you can't just say, well, I didn't have time. You'll be relegated permanently as an amateur if that's your attitude. One thing about being professional, having been in the radio business all these years, is I know that at 3 o'clock every afternoon there's a lot of people who want to hear what I have to say at that time. And there's no such thing as just saying, I didn't feel like doing Tuesday.